Here we go. Got it. Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. Glad you could join us today. Um, Thrilled to have Patricia Prescott Sumi join us. She is a fine artist, graphic designer, and third generation South Californian. Patty grew up drawing and painting and has a family lineage overflowing with artists and creative people. She studied fine art and English literature at Pomona College in Claremont and received her degree with honors from Art Center College of Design in Pasadena. She spent a fulfilling career as a graphic designer, and from 2001 to 2007, she also worked as an oil painter represented by a Central Coast gallery. In 2016, after finally opening a vintage box of pastel she had inherited from her grandmother, Patty began experimenting with pastel, using unusual tools and underpainting techniques with the ultimate goal of bringing a freshness and her point of view to this exquisite old world medium, a similar approach she took as an oil painter. In a short time, she's received press and accolades for her innovations in soft pastel, including 4 articles in Pastel Journal and 1 article in the French art magazine Pratique des Arts. She has been juried into many gallery and museum exhibitions, and in June, she is over the moon about traveling to IAP's convention to receive her Master Circle designation medal. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Addie shares her passion for pastel by teaching workshops, which are currently full, and demonstrating techniques to her Instagram and YouTube viewers. I'm really excited to welcome Patty today.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here. And I can't believe you talked me into this. I'm doing it.
Excuse me, Patty. I don't know if I'm on my iPad. Can I see you large? I see your paintings, but you're small in the corner.
That's by design.
So what do you want me to do, Susan?
She wants us to be able to see her paintings right now.
No, to see her.
Yeah.
Oh, she wants. I see.
Yeah.
So okay. I can put myself on the screen for now if you want, but we're going to go into let me get rid of this.
We had one guy we didn't see until the very end. Somebody finally asked if the watercolor artist from England, can we see your face?
Well, you can. I'm in that little corner, right? So
you're just little.
Yeah. Okay. No problem.
She's lovely.
Yeah. You want me to unshare my screen?
She can spotlight you if she wants to make you bigger on her screen. The little 3 dots, you can go into that and, well, that's spotlighting for everybody. You can pin her.
I don't know if I can do that, but that's okay.
Okay. We'll look at her close up later.
Oh, please, no. Okay. Well, welcome and thank you so much for having me, you guys. I am going to talk about soft pastel. And this is a medium that I've been working in since 2016. I've been an artist like my whole life, but this is my passion these days. So let me get into, this is the demo I'm going to be doing for you. And this is based on a photograph that I took back in October. So we're just going to go through and please ask questions as we go. It's easy to pause. This video is already done. So I'm just going to be talking over it and letting you know how, what I'm doing. So yeah, questions are encouraged. Okay. Ready to go?
Ready.
Ready. So I start off, this is the photo that I took, and these 2 photos are what were my reference material, my inspiration. I really liked the tree in this and the clouds in this, but this is the composition that I really liked. So that was a place to start. This is the photo that I took out the window of the car. I was not driving. And this was at about, oh gosh, 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. The sun had just peeked out. And this is in Paso Robles, like I said. So first thing I try to figure out is what I'm going to do with this long, skinny photo that I took out the window and how I'm going to crop it. So I love working in the square format, as you probably saw from some of my samples that I showed. And that's where I was trying to decide. This was one of my choices, is to crop it way up high. And you can kind of see what would happen there. Like I could make great clouds with that version of it. This version crops it right in the middle. This is the version I chose not to do because it actually just leads everything right to the center, which is not ideal for a composition, right? So, but it is kind of cool how all of these little triangles just kind of end up at this giant tree here, but not the best composition for a painting. So moving on. This is a third version of how it could be cropped. And that is the one that I really liked. And that comes from me. I basically often end up with a road or a pathway in the front. I'm just really drawn to them in my compositions. You can see them kind of over and over as a theme that I use. So, so that's what I was drawn to, and that's what I did. So here I am with my marking off so that I can get my grid going and I can mark out my composition the best I can. I will say that I made a grid as just 4 squares, thinking, oh, it's a simple composition. I can easily like figure out what goes where with 4 squares. I shouldn't have done that. I should have made it 9 squares because it's much easier to determine where things actually go. Like this took me probably an extra 10 minutes because I was like, okay, that's halfway through and that's halfway through. So this is my reference right here. Can you guys see my cursor? I hope. Yes, okay, yeah, so that's my reference there. So I'm going in with a pastel pencil and I'm just trying to get the composition down. There's nothing, I'm trying to go in as light as possible to start with so that if I make a mark that's not in the right place, it's easy to just get out of the way. I'm working on a sanded UArt paper, which is my favorite to work on. Because it's basically indestructible. I can add water, I can add alcohol, I can scrub off what I don't like. This has an ink wash in the background. And as you can tell, it's just a sloppy ink wash. I just wanted some pigment in the background. I know I'm going to cover up 99.9% of it, so I don't care that it's lighter or darker in some areas. I just want it to be there so that if something does peek through and I don't cover the paper completely, you don't see the color of the UArt paper. I just like having something underneath. It's just another layer. So here's me trying to figure out how to do it because I only made 4 squares and I'm trying to make sure that I've got my composition setting in the right place. So, and the tree that I wanted to do versus the tree that was in the reference, I kind of wanted it to lean off to one side. So I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to block that in.
It is square or not quite square?
It is, the composition is square. I know it kind of gets skewed a little bit. There's a lot of things that get skewed with either the video, the color will get skewed, all of that. So feel free to ask me if that's actually what it looks like.
Back at that last screen, it looked like there was a little bit of yellowish at the top and then some darker at the bottom. Was that intentional based on the composition?
You know, I want to say it was, but no. I mean, I actually could have turned this board any direction and used it with that at the bottom and that at the top. It was really just getting a pigment down there to start. And it just, one part of my process is kind of letting it happen. Like this is a messy background and maybe something in there will end up in the finished product because it's kind of cool and maybe it'll all get covered up. So I just kind of like playing as I go. And I can do all different colors. This is one of my go-to background colors. I just think it's it's just warm and yummy. And a lot of times I put cooler colors on top. So yeah, I wish I could say there was some great plan, but there wasn't.
What kind of ink did you use?
I use Liquitex, just regular Liquitex ink, um, water-based ink, and then this pastel ground is kind of one of my go-tos. I love just diving in with this. This is a super old oil painting brush, and the reason I'm holding it so close to the bristles is because it's falling apart on me. So if I held it back further, it actually I might have to throw it in the trash, but I know I'm still using it. I've had it for, 25, 30 years and I'm still using it. But it's in sad shape, but that's what I like because it gives this really random texture. So this is me deciding where I'm going to put the texture and then also letting it be a little bit random. Like you'll see the results at the end when I start putting pastel over this. And I strategically choose where I'm going to put the texture. Most of the time, the background has almost no texture added to it, and I bring the texture forward towards the foreground. I just think it just has this feeling of really pushing your eyes in focus in the foreground. So here I am, like going with the direction of the road. You can see even trying to get a little bit of the perspective of how because when I put the pastel over this, you'll be able to see, the direction of the road coming out at you and the graveliness of the road because that's where I put my texture. So yeah, you can see I'm putting a little bit in the background, and then what I put further back is not as chunky. So then you can see what happens when I start to lay a pastel on there. I'm just doing a little test here to see kind of what's happening with the texture and whether it's what I want it to be. I layer so much. I try to go really light with each layer. So if I lay down something that I don't think is great, it doesn't matter. I can cover it with something that is great. So here's back looking at my reference and trying to work with values. So this is one thing I really experimented with on this particular piece. I'm trying really hard as an artist to get my values right. And this is kind of a new way for me to try to like start off at least in the right place and make sure that I've got, so this is my color palette, but say, over here, so I've got some blues here, but I won't be able to make those blues here if they're not in this range here. So I want to make sure that I've got all my colors in all the different value ranges to start with. This was an experiment and it seemed to work pretty well, and I might continue to do this before I start a painting. Was that a dog toy? So it's hard to even see that I'm putting down pastel, but I'm just starting my layers. Now this step here, this is using the ink again. I had a little bit down there. I want to get some darks in there so I can really see where my darks are going to be. And this is very rough. I try to make the darks actually go outside of the area that I'm going to eventually want to be the tree. There's nothing that's really drawn out. It's just trying to get the pigment down in those areas.
Is that is darker ink or just less watered down?
Darker ink. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good point. I do water it down quite a bit at the beginning, and I'm also very impatient, so I have to have a dryer next to me. However, don't use this after you got the pastel on there because then you're blowing dust, right? Don't do what I do. So yeah, so I'm checking it. So now I'm starting with the layers in the sky, and I'm doing a very light brushing. You can still see through to the background. And I really do experiment with which color I start with first. I know I want this color to peek through at the end, which is why I'm starting with it. Um,
And which brand of pastels are you using here?
oh goodness, I actually use a ton of brands. This is probably, I have to see what I'm using here. Unison. I mean, I could kind of tell you what the different brands offer me, but in this case, I usually start with something. It could be something. I'm trying to figure out what I've got there. I think these are mostly like Unison or even Great American. I have the entire set of Great Americans because I bought them for my workshop students at one point, and we kind of all shared them. So I have all of those, which is so fun. I have more pastels than anybody needs. I'm never ever allowed to buy another pastel. So this is me with my favorite tool, which is my palm. So for me, and the way I do it is I mostly with my skies will do a little bit of blending. Now, what you got to realize is I'm not doing a hard blend. I'm doing it very, very lightly. And I want to be able to see the different layers when I'm done. I don't want it completely looking all one color. So I don't know if you can tell, but you can still see a little bit of blue coming through this little bit of greeny color. I want that to maintain some artistry and not look like, a perfect gradation. That's not my goal. So, and the other thing is, you remember I put down the ink here, and now I'm going over the ink one direction and kind of covering up some of the tree. Then I'll come back out and do the tree at the very end and bring the tree back out again. So I overcompensate with the sky coming in because I'm not really looking to get anything to look like it's been outlined at the end of the day. Does that make sense? So now I'm trying to figure out the value that I want for my hillside in the background. And what was so beautiful about the scene, later on, I do have a little picture of my reference material coming in later on in the video. But what was so beautiful about the scene was this amazing color that the background hills were with this sun coming up over these hills, just incredible. So I want to somehow capture that. There it is. So it's pretty cool what these values were doing, even in the photograph, which a photograph never looks like the real thing, but it was pretty cool what those were doing. That's what really made me want to do this painting to begin with, trying somehow to capture that. Didn't know if I could do it, but that was my goal. And you can see, it gets a little messy and I'm overextending, I'm over blending because to have things under blended means then you end up with these divisions between your different areas. Okay, so this is me with a brush getting rid of some of the pastel I have there because I need to get that area darker and I've got too much pastel down right now to do that. So I just take a dry brush and I basically just trying to get rid of a little bit of that pastel that I laid down. because I want some little trees in the background here that peek up from behind that hill eventually. So this is lots of layering, and it's on purpose to not get it right the first time. Basically, just keep working with different, hold on, let me tell you what this is. My blending tool, which is what I'm using here. You can't see it here, so I just put it on here. This is an insulation piping, and I cut it up and I use it to blend rather than using my finger in most cases. It does a very different job than my finger, so it's kind of one of my favorite tools. But what I was saying is the different colors that I put down here are meant to be layered so you see through things, and just gives it a more richness and depth. And I'm never afraid to try to lay something down. Just like, not sure if it'll work, let's try it. You can see I'm laying down the pastel in the direction that the road gravel would go, like either a perspective coming towards you or going across this way.
Yeah, I know. I'll be able to do a replay. I think this peels off.
You. So what I also really enjoy is the warmth. What I liked about this image is the warmth versus the cool. And you can see I've gone a little more in the lavender, reds here than what's happening here. That's partly the video. It's not quite that color, but it's also not quite this color. So it will end up being something in between. Plus I can layer another color right on top of this, and that'll give it a real richness. One of the areas I loved about this was this gravelly area alongside the road being right there in the foreground. And I want it to be distinguishable, and really wanted to see the texture in there. But at the end of the day, it wasn't my focal point. So it was a little tricky because it started out with a lot of contrast here. It blends down later on. But I really loved the warm and cool, I don't know, roadside asphalt that just goes alongside the road. For some reason, that was intriguing to me, and I loved the texture there. So I played a lot with trying to get that feeling of the dirt kind of mixed with the asphalt. So you can see what happens with the texture that I laid down earlier. Like, I am really brushing very lightly. It's hard to tell how much pressure an artist is putting down on the page, but I promise you, it could almost fall out of my hands because I hold it so lightly. So we're getting somewhere here. So I'm laying in some of this dark shadow area here, like the reference has. Eventually, I end up not really liking that so much. I kind of brush back on it. So you can tell I'm just looking at my reference material, trying to figure out what the next steps are. I'm trying to figure out how much light I want to have hit this hillside, because I've got these great colors here and I don't want to fight with them. And then this is one of the coolest things I love is putting same value, different color right on top. So here I've got this orangey brown and I add this greeny brown right on top of it. And God, I was watching Kim Lordier said it perfectly the other day when I was watching her talk. It kind of vibrates when you do that. I'm like, yes, that's exactly why I do it. There's something about it that just makes it so much richer. So you can see that that's what's happening up in this corner here is I've got this really warm green on this really, burnt orange, basically. And I tend towards, um, really local color, really the color that was actually in nature, uh, and little more muted colors. It's just a palette that I end up being drawn to. That's my dog, if you can hear him, Tater. So just putting a little more contrast in there. So right now this pops quite a bit. I don't really want it to pop that much, but I had to have a place to start. So you'll notice that I will scumble over with something that will tone it down. And so this, I mean, I do use my fingers. I don't use them a ton, and I usually don't use them anywhere near the end stages, but I wanted this to drop back. I want the texture to be really accented up here in the front. Can you see my cursor, everybody? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, so I wanted the texture in the front to really pop, and I like the differentiation between having this fall back here. Like even the way I have my sky, that's blended, this is blended, this will be blended. And then as you come forward, you get this incredible texture.
Is the UArt paper on a board?
It is. I mount it on a Sintra board, which is what UArt does. When you buy theirs that are already on boards, they're on Sintra. At least they were a few years ago. I haven't checked recently, but they put them on Sintra board and they're flush with the board. And I like to have a little lip so that when I mount them, it just makes my paintings kind of float above a mat. So I don't buy them already pre-done. They also do them in pre-made sizes, which they do a few squares now, but I'm a big fan of the square, so I just do my own.
What do you use to glue it down?
Oh gosh, I was afraid you were going to ask that. So I actually worked with somebody who did a whole bunch of boards for me. I'd been a graphic designer forever, and they had the material and they had the archival, glue to do it. So I had a whole bunch of boards done, and I can't tell you what they used. I know that I've tried everything here and not had the same success. So I wish I could tell you what it was, because when I run out of these boards, I'm going to need to know how to do it. But I'm just not sure the glue that works. Because if you've worked with UArt, especially if you bought it in a roll, don't ever do that, by the way. Never buy UArt in a roll. It
Good to know.
never, ever gives up the curl.
Oh,
Yeah. So, anyway, I'm at the end of a roll that I bought in 2016, and I'm just swearing the whole time. It's not fun. So,
thank
but
you.
yeah, so I buy it in the sheets though. If you buy it in the sheets, it's great. It's easy to mount on anything probably. But you think you're saving money by buying the roll, and
Right.
So, and I've got it, I don't know if you can see, but I taped down the edges all the way around, and I'm just brushing this over. At the very end, I'll pull up the tape, and you'll see the effect that I get when I do that. I don't do it on all my paintings, but for a while I did it on almost every painting. So you can see this is toned down a little bit from how it was a few minutes ago. So one thing that's important that I tell my students too is to brush in the direction that things are growing or things are moving or perspective, and try to really think about the way you um, make your mark making, your strokes. Like I'm pulling away from the road here. Um, Yeah, so you can see I laid down a light stroke there. I'm like, oh, that doesn't work. And so it's gone. There's that light color again. So I'm working towards bringing in a little more contrast here, and it's just kind of natural instinct. It's not that it needs to do that based on looking at the reference.
Looks beautiful already.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I look at this and I think it's definitely the messy stage, where you can't really see where things are gonna go. And that's part of it too. It's just having the confidence that in the messy stage you're gonna get past it. So now I'm adding pastel to the ink area. So the ink will be 99% covered up that I put down there. But it does give me a base without putting too many layers of pastel on top of each other, for the tree to have that dark to start with. And you'll see this area here, there's going to be a bush or a tree that's behind this hill that's kind of right now looks like it's just part of the tree.
What playback speed is this video, Patty?
Oh gosh, I have to video and you can't just do a standard speed up, because it's too fast. If you do a time lapse thing, they're way too fast. I use them for Instagram and stuff, but I have to videotape this at a regular speed, and then in order to not have you guys sit through 100 hours of this, I speed it up. But I 1.3, 1.25 to 1.5 is what it is at. And then obviously I've kind of cut out, parts of it where I'm just looking at my reference material or trying to pick my next pastel. I've trimmed this up. This was probably, gosh, I don't know how many hours it was total, but over the course of like 3 days, I did this painting. which is why I'm not comfortable doing a demo live
Right.
because I just work too slowly. So I'm scumbling over with a dark pastel over the light just to give a little more texture there. And that's what I'm doing here too. So now I've got this bluer shade that I'm bringing in. And often if I'm bringing it in one place, I bring it in somewhere else. You know, you kind of have to mirror it in other places. You don't just want to have a color kind of stick out like a sore thumb. You kind of have to, even if it's just a little bit, it should kind of have a reference somewhere else in the painting. So this, I could easily drop this pastel. I'm holding it so lightly. And I have many times.
Those are great marks over the top.
Sorry, this is a little blurry, but I kind of wanted to get in there and kind of show how I added the clouds. And this is kind of one of the scarier parts because the sky was kind of done, right? So if I screw up the clouds, guess what? I gotta redo the sky. I don't want to do that. So I'm very, very judicious and careful about the marks I'm placing right now. And I know I'm going to go back in and do a tiny bit of blending because I don't want them to pop out so much. I want the clouds to kind of just be in the background. And they start, when you first lay this down, they're a little too chunky and in focus, I would say. I want them to be less in focus because they are way in the background. But you'll see right now they're pretty much in focus. I'm using the edge of this pastel. I wish I could tell you what brand this is. It's a round one, but it's a smaller round one. Not really sure. I think it's too thick to be a Girol, which I love.
That's what I was going to say.
I know, but I think it's a little too fat, don't you?
I love Giroux.
Me too.
They're
Yeah.
so so.
Yeah, I bought one of their sets was natural. I can't remember what it was, but man, I wish I could buy them individually because you can't unless you go to France probably. Okay, so here I am with my foam. And this is, like I said, I really didn't want the clouds to be focused and staccatoed. I really wanted them to move back. So I'm using the very tippy point of a triangular shaped cut on this foam.
Anyone wondering what that is? It's pipe insulation.
Yeah, it's pipe insulation. I got it on Amazon, but I'm sure you can get it at the hardware store.
Yeah, you can get enough for the next 5 years, 20 years of your life.
Yep. True. It's a great way to blend, though. I mean, you can't do that with almost, I don't think you can do that with any other tool. And I know a lot of artists would maybe not do the blending at this stage. And depending on the painting, I would choose to do that too. But like I said, because I wanted to push this back, I chose to blend it back a little bit. At the end, I want my focal point to be the tree, which is the last stage of this. The tree and I would say this area right here, you know, against the tree. So you can see that side compared to this side. And this was more what I was going for, you know, and this side could be for another painting, but not this one. This one's going to get blended out. You can also see that my sunrise is over here and how I've got my orange that's pretty orange here, kind of comes back behind the tree, and then over here it's changed. So my gradation kind of goes this way on here as well as this way in the sky. So this, you might see a lot of my hand in this because there was no way to actually get a camera angle that you could see this. It's not like you have a long brush where you can really see what's going on, but this is starting to put in the tree holes. Tree holes are addicting and fun, and I love them. And sometimes I have to take it back a step because they're not working, and you know, I put in too many, or you know, too many the right size. And but for me, playing with the tree holes and actually just creating this shape of a crazy tree that kind of comes out of experimenting with where the negative space is one of the funnest parts, for sure. Love doing trees.
Are you standing while you're painting, Patty?
Yeah, I'm standing. My easel is vertical, and yeah, I've tried sitting. I always end up standing up. So when I work with gouache, I mostly I'm always sitting down. I don't use an easel or anything in gouache, but with pastel, I'm standing. And I should have shown a picture of my dust tray underneath. It's about, I don't know, 2 inches thick of dust. How about you, Dory?
I collect dust because I always say I'm going to make new pastels. So I end up with a lot of gray pastels. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I do
it's
too.
just,
Yeah, I make pastels. I've made a lot of pastel. I have some favorite pastels I've made from the dust because I keep them in separate jars depending on what the painting was. Like this one has a lot of browns and greens, so I'll put that dust in
yeah.
a jar that is that, you know, tends towards that, and then see what comes out of the new pastels. It's
You
fun.
know, Patty, you have such a wonderful focus of value. I mean, your values are, yeah, I know you're working on it, but they're fantastic. So I think the way you have your pastels laid out and that designer wheel that you have would be good to show if you have pictures. I don't know if you
It's
have
at
that.
the end. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's at the end of this video. You'll see my circular Lazy Susan palette. Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
shows how you're looking at values before you ever even get started. That you're
Well, I mean, that's really important. Thanks for mentioning that, Dory, because I didn't do that for a long time. I just started painting. You know, I just would paint. I would paint what I saw and everything. And it basically took somebody drilling it into my head that, yeah, you will have a much more successful painting if you start knowing what your values are. And that's what I try really hard to teach when I'm teaching now too. And it's kind of a hard lesson because you don't think it's that important, and it is number one, really, to get your values down. So one thing I'll say is, yeah, you saw me create the sky out of like 4 different colors. Now I've got to get my tree holes to kind of match somehow those 4 different colors that are in the background. So there is a bit of layering of you know, what goes in those tree holes as well. You can see I'm kind of layering in here. And then I'm like looking at it going, well, see, this is when I should have stood back and went, well, that's not good. So I do stand back, but not until later and fix it. But I've got kind of some weird tree holes going on here. But that's another thing I would say is like, please stand back from your paintings like all the time. It's amazing what you see from far away. And oh, another thing I learned from Kim's workshop the other day, her Zoom workshop, is she puts a mirror there so she can see her painting reflected backwards all the time. I'm going to do that now. I think that's an incredible idea. I got to figure out how to do that, but I think that's a great idea because you can just turn around and somehow see it with a whole different viewpoint. But you're still going to see if the composition is right, the values are right. It's a great way to check on stuff.
Did you used to do oil?
You know, I did oil for, gosh, about 7, 8 years back in the 2000s. And I loved it for a while. And then I started to felt like it was a bit of a burden to kind of keep up with everything and keep the you know, once you get your palette all mixed, you kind of committed to doing that painting. And I loved that Pastel gives me the freedom of picking up and putting down anytime I want. Okay, so this is interesting. So this is me now working at night and trying to figure out my lighting because I was working during the day, and I have my lights on, but as I'm trying to videotape this at night, see what happens with the different levels of lights. I have a whole bunch of lights that I can use, and I have to I set them for an in-between. And for a long time, I was lighting my easel way too bright at night because it makes it easier to paint, but it also makes for a really bad painting at the end of the day because nobody's walls are that bright. So you end up actually with this dark painting because nobody's got them lit like you lit it. So that was a lesson learned, you know, a few years ago. So now this is lit as if it would be almost, maybe a little more, but almost like it was hanging in somebody's home. Um,
That's a great point because I do plein air and they do then look dark later. And that's probably because it's outside and very light.
right.
That's with different, with oil or watercolor or anything.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, you know, you want to see it as bright and as well as you can when you're painting, right? But at the end of the day, that's not what makes the great painting.
Gosh, that's something, an aha moment for me.
Well, I learned the hard way, let me tell you. So yeah, so I toned down my lights. I got a bunch of lights on there, but I put them on the dimmest, you know, you can kind of change the levels of them, and I put them on one of the dimmer levels, even though it makes it a little harder for me to see. I don't have great eyes, so um, but it's better that way. So a little messy scumbling, and this is one of my other tools. I don't know if it already, yeah, so I didn't really love that. That's why I'm doing this. And I know that there's not a ton of pastel on there, so I can go over with another layer of something I might like better. But this is getting me closer to the value that I want there. Um, and then shortly you'll see this wire brush that I use that I can kind of scrape back into it, which is another one of my little favorite things.
What do you use to wipe or wash your palm off in between?
Oh, so I'll show you that. So at the very end, I have another little video of my favorite tools, and I just have this dish with this thin sponge that's has soapy water on it, and I just dip my palm in it and then wipe it off, with a towel, and I do that a lot with my fingers too, if I've used my fingers. So here's my wire brush, which is taking off strategically, and see how I'm brushing in the direction that I want that to, the strokes to happen. So this was probably another day. Oh, so this final bits. So just so you know, I lost the very end of my video because I was new at doing videography, and I got a little cocky and I ended up losing the whole thing except for these little snippets. So I was trying to compress the video so that it wasn't such a big file, and I ended up destroying the video. So these last bits are just going to be snapshots of what happened, but it's enough to kind of tell the story. So we can talk from there. So I kind of circled the areas that you'll see change in as I'm working on these final layers.
Did you put quite a bit more blue, or is it just different lighting?
Both. I have to say both. At the beginning, it looked very purple and it really wasn't that purple, but yes, I did both. Like those layers of purple are underneath there, and I went with a little bit more of a blue tone on top of it. And this was like finishing up the sky holes to make sense. I decided I wanted to add a little bit of detail to the trunk. And then this area here, trying to create a shape of this tree that might make some sense and be very different from the other tree. And keep it simple. It doesn't need to be the focal point like this one, but I wanted to give it a little more, less of a lollipop tree feel. And then here I'm creating this tree that's behind the bush now. You can kind of see it pop through. Here I gave this a little light here. Light's coming in from over here, so I decided to add a highlight there. Thought it made sense. Another favorite tool is my scraper. This is kind of showing how the texture works, see the layers. Look at all these values are very similar, but there's all these different colors in there. So this is one of my favorite things, is to see the close-ups of how that texture really works.
So you mentioned a scraper, and I was seeing an
So the scraper,
X-Acto knife.
yeah.
Can you tell us more about?
Yeah, absolutely. The scraper is an X-Acto knife that's super, super dull. I've been using the same blade on it for 6 years. So it's like almost like curved at the end, but it's a perfect scraper. So it is an X-Acto knife, but it's a special one that I use just to get rid of things that I don't want there. So yeah, so that's that. There's a little bit at the end where you'll see my palette come up, but that's the final painting. Actually, that's not quite the final painting. It's now gone to another phase, but this is the final for today. So this is my work area. This is the easel and my setup and a million lights, and it's always a mess. And this is my palette, which I made during COVID when there was nothing better to do, and created this this color wheel palette, which I love. So I did it.
Amazing.
I made it disappear. Yeah, so if I can show you a couple other little short videos, or if anybody has any questions, I'm open to
Feel
questions.
free to unmute
Yeah.
yourselves and chime in.
I think that was a great way to do a demo. Got to see a completed painting
Oh,
and
good.
watch as you went. Susan's has asked me if I'd do a demo, but I have not done, I've only done live demos. So for Christmas, I did get a kind of a setup to maybe try videos, but maybe I can email you a few questions on that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's a learning process. I've been doing videos for a long time for my Instagram and stuff like that, but now I'm starting to do
Okay.
some long format. So yeah, this was kind of an introduction. And when Susan asked me to do this, God, I've said no about 1,000 times. So I
Yes, I knew
finally,
she had said you were reluctant, but I didn't know why, what the reluctance was, but I see. Yeah.
yeah, the reluctance is really just being the one in front of an audience. That's really all it is about. So I don't mind small groups in person. I just didn't know how seamless or not seamless something like this might go. Um, so anyway, that's why I decided to do the demo ahead of time and kind of at least have that part, figured out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see. It seems like it would be hard to demo and then not hear anybody laugh at your jokes, or you got to keep unmuting if you want to chuckle so you can hear it. But
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't bad though. I highly encourage you to do it. So let me show you. This is just a quick one that shows the crazy differences in values. So here's the photo reference, and I did a change it to black and white back and forth. That you'll see is kind of cool to just see what the value differences are, where the values lie there, which is pretty much in a mid-range the whole way, right? There's nothing super light and there's nothing super dark. And then here's the final painting, which is a little different. Now, honestly, the photograph of this is much more contrasty and bright than the actual one if you saw it in person, but it does give you an idea of how you're allowed to have artistic license and you can change anything you want about, from your source to your end. And that's kind of the point of showing this is that, yeah, I had an idea of how I wanted my values to go and how I wanted it to go. And then in the end, this is where I landed. So actually, it's almost where I landed. I fixed a few things. So
Hi, Patty, it's Amy. And the final product is superb, fabulous. But all the way through it, and I'm like, oh, she's almost done. She's almost done. And you have such patience. And how do you know when you're done? Because it looked so good throughout.
wow, that's a good question because I didn't think so. I thought I just knew it wasn't done until it's done. It's crazy. And by the way, sometimes I'll overwork something because it really should have been done 4 stages ago. So that definitely can happen. But I definitely know one of the things that's scary about showing other people videos like this is that those middle stages, they're looking at it going, well, this is awful, because there is that middle stage for me. That's how I'm feeling. It's like, this is so bad. This is so ugly. But I know where it's going. So I'm kind of like always keeping that focus on that. So when you have the ugly stages of a painting, just know that, you're going to get past that. So, but I'll show you this one real quick. Now, this one I'm speaking through, so it's 5 minutes and it shows you some of my pastel tools. So it might be valuable. So let's look at this for a minute. So I put together this. And can you hear it?
I often get questions about what are the
Can you hear it?
Main go to tools.
Not yet.
Dory
Pastel
can hear
painting.
it.
So
I can hear it, but it's low.
5 minutes.
No, I can't hear it.
Oh,
Some of
shoot.
my favorite things. First,
All right, so
when I mostly for pencils, I use
maybe I should mute it and just talk you through it.
You can do that.
Can you guys hear it at all, or should I?
It's low.
At
I
the
can hear
end, at the end,
I can
we
hear
can
it.
hear it more. You want to start it over
There.
and
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you
everybody
can.
crank your volume?
Okay,
Yeah,
so
microphone.
so here I'm just talking about my tools that I use, and I use an X-Acto knife to sharpen my pastel pencils, like most people have been taught. But the finish of sharpening these pencils, I don't do with a knife. I do with this drywall screen that you get at Home Depot, and I just put it on a plate and to catch the dust. And I can get some really nice sharp points really quickly. So me and my impatience, I need that. It's great. So then same thing with my hard pastels. So if I have a hard pastel, and you can see these square ones, you know, they can be New Pastel, or there's like probably a half dozen brands I have of them. But if I use that, I can get my nice sharp edges ready to go. So that's like halfway done. Go back into it. That makes me happy right there. Nice and sharp. And then with a soft pastel, this is tricky because they are so soft, they basically will crumble on you if you're not super gentle with them. But I want to get that edge back so that I can just hit something with it to get a nice little sharp, you know, accent on a painting. So I am barely rubbing it across there, and now I've got a little sharper edge that I can use. I'm very proud of myself here, you can tell. I did it. So yeah, so those are my little sharpening tools. This is what Susan, you were asking how I clean my palm and my hands. I just use these flat sponges because they dry quicker, and I just use a little bit of soapy water. And pinch it and dry my hands. So I don't know if another pastelist has a better way of doing this. This is just what has worked for me for sure. So here's a little sample of, this is a tiny little study that I had done years ago that was just sitting there so that I could, grabbed it so that I could show how the insulation foam works. Sorry, it's so blurry. But there, so you can see the triangles. That's kind of why I put this part in there, is because you can see how I cut them into triangles and I get these really nice points. And then I can decide just little tiny bits of things and leave some unblended and some blended, and it's very easy. I almost never use my finger. I'll use the side of my finger, I'll use my palm. I almost never use my finger for any blending. So yeah, I mean, I grabbed this painting, and because it was just an old study sitting around, I probably wouldn't choose to blend out the reflection in the pond, but that's the painting that I grabbed. Fast forward a little bit. Yeah, so I use these. I have not found the perfect tape. I know so many people use painter's tape, blue painter's tape. For me, that shade of blue is so distracting. I can't do it. And I know it doesn't stick to things, and I know it's the best one to use, but it just makes me crazy. So I use Blick's black tape for almost everything because of that. And God, I watch everybody uses that painter's tape, and I'm like, doesn't that just drive you nuts? Because it doesn't, just clashes with everything you're painting. I like a very dark neutral background when I'm painting. You can tell my easel was black, right? I really do like it to just go away.
Well, I remember reading somewhere, probably YouTube or
Happen there.
that the tapes you should use should be the white, the vanilla, and the black. Anything else is going to distract
Yeah,
you.
so there's the Liquitex. There's the pastel ground. There's my dull X-Acto knife. My grayscale chart that I made.
I saw vinegar water in the background. What was that for?
I'm not hearing anything.
Oh, that's gouache. That's for
Oh,
gouache.
I'm probably not hearing anything because my volume's down. There we go.
Right. She uses the vinegar water to stop the gouache from getting mold.
Right, but do you use it for pastel also?
I do. I don't know why I use it. It was something I started years ago. I wish I could give you a good reason. I just thought it kept things from the water from going bad too quickly.
For the day, for the project, and then you re-wet them the next day. So it helps you get inspired and have some fun.
Yeah,
Nice.
so there's that.
How much vinegar to water do you use? Because I use gouache, but I'd never heard about the vinegar water.
Well, please don't quote me on it because I actually saw something that said that that vinegar does something to the paint, but I haven't discovered that at all. I've had a lot of success with it, but I don't use very much, just enough, just like, oh gosh, I mean, so I'll have a whole thing of water, and I'll have a couple squirts of dish soap and a little bit of vinegar, like 3 tablespoons, something like that. Not a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was in your dishwashing, your hand washing water solution.
Exactly. It was in there. And I'll use it to I'll use it on the canvas too. And even with my gouache, I just kind of kept with that. I recently read something about the vinegar being not good for that, so I'm gonna have to look into that more. But I like it. So anyway, so are there any questions? You're all so quiet. Nancy Nickerson. Hi, Nancy. Oh my gosh, thanks you guys for coming. So cute. Nice to have you.
What was the patch that you used to sharpen things?
Oh, it's just a drywall patch. You get it at Home Depot. And I just cut
Drywall.
it into smaller pieces. I like it better than sandpaper because sandpaper, all the pastel dust gets clogged in the sandpaper. And
Right.
with these screens, it kind of goes right through the screen to what's underneath. And you can wash them and reuse them. Like one pack will last you forever.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah. So that's a cool thing. I can't remember what else I was going to talk to you guys about, but that's it for my painting. I don't know if you can
You
see my
mentioned
studio.
Yes.
Unshare my screen and I'll show my studio.
You mentioned showing us your edge when you peel the masking tape off. Are you
Yeah.
able to do that?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me see. Can I unshare my screen so that you can
Yeah, go ahead and
see me in
unshare
my
your
video?
screen.
You are sharing your screen.
Yeah, so now you want to unshare it.
I know. I'm looking. Why do I do that?
It's at the bottom. There's a little green arrow down there. The very bottom of your screen.
Here, wait, how about this?
Next to chat, it says share screen.
Oh, yeah. It's lit up in green.
Yeah, you just unshare. You click on that and unshare it. I don't know, maybe I can unshare your screen.
Trying to do that.
We're picking on you, Patty. Come on.
It's okay, I can handle it. share sound.
Artist and a technician.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know.
Can you see that at the very bottom where it's the mute, video, security, participants, chat, and then
No,
next to the
can't.
share?
That's the thing. I don't have that coming up. I have mute, video, security, participants up at the top, and then new share. So I have that, but
I wonder if you can do it from the top. Let's see, view options.
advanced sharing, host only, all participants.
Request.
How do I make you go away? Oh, wait, I did it. Wait, there was this button that said stop share. I found it.
Isn't that amazing?
I found it. It's amazing.
Good job.
And
Oh
now
my
we need to
goodness.
highlight you. So we can do what you didn't want to do. You've been avoiding the whole time is to be a
That's all right. You can see my studio.
Pin or spotlight?
spotlight for everyone.
Ah,
Oh
there
my
you go.
God, I'm
You to
so
remove
That's
all pinned
horrible.
videos.
All right. It's all right.
Liberty, are you still here?
Yes,
Who?
I don't,
Here's Patty.
don't know.
Hello.
what happened.
Why?
I don't know what happened to my video. I switched it or something.
So you see in the background, that's my painting. That's the painting pretty much as it is now. It looks obviously different with different light on it. But yeah, so
Yeah, there's a spot.
oh, you can't see my cursor now, can you? Why bother? I can't show you that.
Oh. Did you just pin her, Dory?
I did something. Where'd she go?
I'm hiding.
Patty, where are you?
I'm hiding.
I just pinned her again.
Okay, good. I can't seem to get somebody off my screen here. I can't tell who it is. So just ignore me. I'm hoping it's not recording my screen.
Hi, Amy.
Okay, what did we do with Patty?
Yeah.
Patty, what are your favorite ink colors?
So I use sepias. So I always have to have black to put in with these other colors because sometimes I like to get it dark. And if you just buy the sepias and the browns, they just don't get dark enough. So I'll mix a drop or two of black in with whatever color I'm doing, which is, let's see.
Do you mix it in advance or?
Yeah, I'll mix it in
on the
a
paper?
little porcelain dish or whatever. I'll mix it up for whatever painting. But you know, a burnt sienna or any kind of warm color. Usually, I have cool colors too. What I try to do is the kind of the opposite, the complement of what my end painting feel will be, so that it gives more. I feel gives more depth to the painting. So if I know I'm going to end up with a cool ocean scene, I start with something that's warm underneath it. And then vice versa. I didn't do that in this demo, as you know. I kind of stayed with the warm theme, but typically that's what I'll do. So yeah, and I love that. Let's see, what else can I show you? So if you can see, I don't know, do you have me pinned? I can't see me pinned, but that's okay.
You're pinned on my screen. Think
Oh,
Susan pinned
do I have to pin myself?
good. I just pinned you for
Yeah.
my screen.
Well, just so I can see what's in the background here.
Yeah, pin yourself. See what happens.
So,
Always
speaker,
an adventure.
I put it on speaker. It's on gallery.
And each participant can pin you too.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
have everybody on whoever's speaking.
Yeah, me too.
Not good.
Yeah, that gets crazy because then you go back and forth too much.
So everybody be quiet.
So, so my studio, if you can see, if I am pinned, you'll be able to see a little bit better. And I wish I could, there, now I'm pinned. I have 3 tables that I got that are all adjustable height. And there's 1, 2, so you can't see my cursor, can you? So there are two next to each other right here at a lower height, and then there's one that's turned the other way that's at a higher height. And I tend to stand up a lot when I work, and so I have these. I got the adjustable legs a few years ago, and I'm so glad I did because I was working on an old dining room table for a long time, and that means you really had to be sitting because otherwise you were bending over and insanely too much. So these are a lifesaver. My stools are at like counter height stools, so they're a little higher than a chair would be. And it just gives me so much flexibility to have these three tables. I have a I have a nice studio, but it's not huge, and so I'm constantly trying to figure out, how to make things work in there. And I find storage everywhere, so that's another thing I'm always trying to figure out. I've got I don't know if you can see on this side underneath there's a bunch of pastels, which I can't screen share, so I can't show you where I'm pointing, but down underneath I have these baker's trays of pastels. And like I said, I'm never allowed to buy another pastel as long as I live, and they're all divided by brand and then color and all of that, because I don't know, that's just how my mind works. I'll show you my swatches. So I have this book. Can you see that? Those are all of my different brands. And then inside I have swatches of everything as I've bought it. I don't know why. You don't need to do that. I just felt compelled to do that. But the more you do stuff like that, the more you learn about, what you're using. You learn about the different pastels, you learn about hard versus soft. Like I've pretty much used, I believe, every brand, including that really expensive French one that I treated myself to one birthday. And it's fabulous. I don't think I would spend the money on the whole set of them, but it's fabulous. I have like 5 pastels that are super gritty, and then I have, of course, the Terry Ludwigs are super creamy. And I love those too, and those blacks and darks are just amazing. What is you guys' favorite pastel? I also love Diane Townsend for the finishes. I just think those pastels are amazing with the sandiness and the grit at the very last stages. That's one of my favorite ways to end a painting.
I do like Diane Townsend. It takes me back to caveman. I always feel like I'm picking up chunks of pigment and just putting it on. I don't know, I kind of relate to that. I like Giraud a lot, although they just get eaten up on sanded surfaces. So it's, you have to really be selective about where you use them. Terry Ludwigs are the expensive hard workers. And but I tend, because I think I have my students get these and they're first starting off, as Rembrandts. Rembrandts are, you can beat the heck out of those things, and they're
Yeah,
great.
you totally can. They're a little bit hard.
They are.
They're a little bit hard, literally, for some of the work, but yeah, I think they're great, especially in the under layers, when you're just trying to get some washes down there and everything. Sometimes I find they don't want to actually stick on the top layers, they don't want to stay. But yeah, I know. I honestly, I think I have every pastel brand, from the cheapest to the most expensive, and the grittiest to the creamiest. And yeah,
I do like Great American too. They're creamy. They're nice.
you know what? They're in between and they're fabulous. It was such a great thing. Like I said, I got the entire set because it was way less expensive per pastel for a whole group of us. And they're big pastels. So I could divide them into 3s. And so 3 of us split all of these pastels, and it ended up being a fabulous value. And I have a lot of Great American pastels now.
What do you think about Sennelier?
I think they're great. The funny thing about Sennelier for me is, depending on the pigment, the pastel can be very different from the last pastel. Like I feel like, I don't know what you think, Dory, but I feel like one pastel can be like creamier and one can be grittier, one can crumble, I think they're a little bit more iffy in that way. They're not as
Inconsistent.
consistent.
I
Yeah.
find between the long sticks and then they have the half sticks, big difference.
That's right.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure what the half sticks, which I love the fact that so many of these manufacturers are offering half sticks because it allows you to get more.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
particularly that manufacturer, they feel much harder. I don't
Yeah.
know why. Then when you buy the stick with the wrapper on it, just that's much softer.
Yeah, I agree. So I would say with Sennelier, there's a few that I really like, that I end up kind of keep picking back at, but overall the consistency, like I'm always afraid to try something with them because I don't know that it'll be the same. Not the color will be the same, but the consistency and the crumbliness versus the creaminess, I never know what I'm going to get with them.
No, I agree. Sometimes I get a hard patch in it and
Yeah.
I like, work through it.
Yeah.
I don't like
Yeah,
that.
I think Giro is uh personally I like them a lot better.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very consistent. Their colors are amazing.
Yeah.
What about Schminke?
Oh my gosh, great
Uh,
pastel. Yeah. Yeah. Those are creamy yumminess. Yeah. And expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like holding a little baby in your hand. They're so delicate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, so do you know the brand I was talking about, that really expensive brand?
The Rocher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever bought those?
What is it?
I got one. I got one in a set when I ordered something from Art. Oh gosh, what's the store back east? Like it's called the Art Store, I think.
Yeah.
And I ordered a set of where you can get samples.
That's
And I was stunned. One of those was in there. And I thought, well, that
What?
was that. Yeah, it was really
Oh my
great.
gosh.
I've had one, and at the moment I couldn't tell you where it is. Every once in a while I go, I know it's here somewhere.
I mean,
Where's
oh my gosh, no, I keep mine in a separate box. They're like $18 a piece. They're
It's
crazy.
crazy, I know. Well, this was before I actually had any appreciation for how expensive they were. And I only had this one little tiny piece, and I
Oh
thought,
yeah.
oh, yeah, I'm very sad. I'm sure I'll
Yeah, they are fun to work with. I don't have enough of them to really know how I would create a painting just from those.
Hmm.
I've just kind of incorporate them in my work.
What is the brand name?
What is it, Dory? I got them over here.
Hey, don't trust me to pronounce it right. Roche.
And
I like Unison.
I should say Henri Rocher.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. Yes.
Henri Rocher.
Henri? Oh yeah, thank you.
Henri.
do they
Henri.
come with a red sole like the fancy shoes?
I know. I think I want to go to France.
I
just
got
to
the
see.
half. Yeah, I got the half Senneliers, and I had to use that drywall stuff. If I used them on the side, sometimes I would end up with two lines because
Yes.
it wasn't uniform. It
Mhm.
just had the two ends would stick out further, and I would end up with stripes. So I had to sand them down to get rid of that.
Mhm. Do you use the
It wasn't
drywall?
very fun.
Unison. What do you think of Unison?
I think Unison, that was the first pastel that I kind of went beyond Rembrandt's years ago. They used to have them at Art Supply Warehouse. You could buy individual sticks, and I
Oh,
swear
wow.
the packaging on them cost more than the stick. So they packaged all of them with foam and this whole thing, and they got smarter at one point. But I love them. I think you get a lot for your money. I think they're a nice consistency. They have an interesting shape because they're round, but they're sort of
Yeah.
old too. It's really strange.
I like them a lot. The price point was a little bit more than Great American, and I thought Great American was really in the same category. For me, I didn't see that they were all they were hyped up to be. Not that they weren't great, but I didn't think they were better or worse than using the Great American. So the price point was better on the Great American, and it's even a slightly longer stick. So you could, yeah. get
That's
more.
true.
Great Americans, the ones that are square like Ludwig?
No,
Or-
no,
They're
they're
round.
more like a unison, except maybe a little bit longer and thinner, but not as thin as a Giraud.
Okay. I think I was thinking of Blue Earth.
Yeah.
Oh, I like
They're
Blue
little.
Earth.
Blue
I
Earth.
like those edges.
Blue Earth is nice, yeah.
I like Blue Earth too. Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
like I compare that to a Terry Ludwig. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Blue Earth, I think they're a little less creamy,
Yeah.
but they have a nice range. Like I was trying to make something with pinks, and they actually have a box called Quindo Pink.
Nice.
April, you were trying to make something with what? Sorry?
Oh, with the colors pink, you know,
Pink. Pink.
pink. It's not easy to find good pinks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I wouldn't know because I'm not a pink person.
Well, I do some flowers, so.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have pinks, but yeah, if I were to do more flowers, I would know. As you can see, like, look at my studio. Is there anything pink in here? Not really.
The other pastel that I like that I think is a good price point is Mountain Vision. Mountain Vision?
Yes.
Mountain Vision.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
big. They're quite large. They have
Yeah.
they have some nice sets. Like they have that Thunder Cloud set. I think there's 12 or more than that.
Yeah.
15.
It's
Anyway,
Stormy, right?
Stormy,
that's the
yeah,
one
yeah. It's a
Tony
great.
likes.
They have some
Tony
nice
Alon likes that
sets
one.
that way, but they're large. You could easily split those with someone.
I agree.
Yeah.
Are any of you people going to IOPS this year? Yay! I'll see you there.
Yeah, I actually signed up for 2 sessions on the same day.
On the
wow.
same day?
Yeah.
Oh, you're crazy.
Well, you can't do that. They're happen at the same time.
Well, one's a half and the other's a whole, so I'll see.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. I'm signed up for 2 2-day workshops and 1 demo. I'm going to be there all week. And then
Demos
I'm there
are
for the
great.
banquet, so.
The demos are really great. You can run around and see those without a lot of effort of dragging all your equipment.
Yeah, I know, but if
And,
you're gonna go, you gotta go take a workshop. I mean, that's what I figured. I'm gonna do it, so.
No, I've taken a couple, I've signed up for a couple of workshops, but from people like I'm already signed up for Tony Alon. I love his stuff, not my style, but I still love it.
Yeah,
So I didn't sign up for one of his. In
Yeah.
a way, I've already seen what he does.
I
Right.
did, yeah, so have I, but I took a workshop from him in 2019 at IAPS, I think it was 2019, the last one they did before COVID.
Oh, okay.
So that's when I was there and I took from him, which was great. And Stan Spurlack, I took from him.
oh yeah,
He was fun. He's a kick.
he is funny.
Yeah.
I've been to his barn. It's great.
You have?
Yeah, I took a workshop with him in New Jersey. Yeah,
Oh,
it's crazy. Crazy. They all thought we were crazy. There were 2 of us that came from California. They said, "You came all this way?" Yeah, we had nothing else to do.
Why not? Why not?
The other thing at IAPS that I went and I didn't sign up for anything but things that were easy. So I didn't take a workshop. But I took informational things. And one of the most delightful things is to actually see the IAPS exhibition of all the work. You could spend the entire time in there examining people's work. It's just, and if you get in there at different times, there are people that walk through with groups and talk about various different things going on with the work. So I walked through with Richard McKinley, and I
Same here. Yeah.
walked through with who's the main guy for Pastel Society of America?
Jimmy
Jimmy.
Wright.
I walked through with Jimmy, and he got on framing, which was really great to have somebody talk about how things should be framed and all of that. It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I spent hours in there when I was there, and Richard McKinley, I was kind of like listening in the background to him talk. Yes, he went through the whole thing too. So yeah, and he
Yeah.
was the first. Well, after Dory, he was the first
Oh,
workshop
God.
I took.
We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. Learned so much from him. I bought his book, his little Bible, and learned so much. And and the thing is, you learn and you take away what you need for your own art. Like my art doesn't look anything like his art, but I took away so much from his workshop.
That's that's a very successful workshop when you don't go away painting like them. That's not what they're teaching you. So you're taking what you're ready to hear, what you're ready to, experiment with. A lot of times there's things that I can remember. I took a Kitty Wallace workshop years ago, and she was a kick.
Nice.
A strange kid. She was different. So I walked away from that workshop kind of like, I don't know. I was not sure what I learned. And months later, things kept clicking. I would go to do something and go, oh my God, that's what she was talking about. So I felt that, as uncomfortable as I was in that workshop, I learned so much, but it took a very long time for it to sink in. So
Interesting. Yeah.
Patty, I want you to show everybody your lovely edge that you get.
Oh, okay. Let me see.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's right.
I can actually show you with this little guy right here. I think take it out of its little wrapper. So let's see if I can get this right up to the screen and
That's
not
good.
move. Okay, so you see
Is
what
that not the
happens?
coolest thing?
So I tape off my edges and I cover up. Well, first of all, I lay down the ink as like this is a 1/4 inch from the edge, sometimes an 1/8 of an inch from the end. I lay down the ink, leaving space. And then
You draw a pencil line, right? A light
don't.
line. No?
I actually just freehand it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just freehand putting the ink down about a 1/4 inch from the edge, and I don't care too much. As you can see, like in this one corner over here, I don't care too much if it's perfect. It's not meant to be perfect. And then I tape off, covering just a tiny, tiny bit of that ink. I will tape over, because then when I pull off the tape, you get this lovely, you can kind of see the edge and the ink. And I really enjoy that. This is actually doesn't have a lot of that showing, because over here in the blue area, usually you would see a little more there. But it gives this feeling. I just like the finish of it. I like the way that feels like a finished piece, and you can see the layering of what happened beneath. So it's just one way of doing it.
It reminds me a lot of nostalgia. I don't know. It has this feeling of an old photo.
It does, doesn't it? Especially that one. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I get. It's a nice, it's lovely.
Yeah. Thanks.
Patty, have you ever used the rolls of 3M positionable mounting? I used to use it when I did graphics for the Mayo Clinic, and it comes on a roll on a backing paper, and then it's the sticky stuff, and then it's got another layer, and we would make posters for the doctors who are going to seminars, and you peel off the one layer and you put down, and there was a technique for getting the extra goop off. But
I think that's what's on these Sintra boards that I didn't do myself. I think
right.
I know it's some kind of a sheet. I just don't know what sheet, because I didn't do it.
Right.
But I had to make sure it was archival. And so I don't know if the 3M one is archival.
Alan Picard uses it. I think he has a demo or a video on how to do that and buy that and to mount his. And he talks about mounting your work after you've completed it, which is a trick, to
I've done it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah. So anyway, he uses that stuff.
I think you realize the more you work with pastel that it really is kind of indestructible. I mean, yes, you can smear a whole painting, right? Have I ever done that on purpose? Maybe, but on accident, never. So I may have, made a little boo-boo here and there that can be fixed, but I'm not as afraid as I was when I started, for sure, about the delicacy of it and ruining something accidentally. I have stacks of pastels, and if I take one out, it's really, I can work on it just as much as I could when I put it in that stack. So it's they don't smear quite as easily as you think they
Okay.
do.
Yeah.
Not so delicate.
I don't know about smearing, but I know stuff falls off overnight. Because when I look at it the next day, I go, I could swear that that green was greener and that part was different, you know. It's
Really? Oh, wow. Oh, do you use a really chunkier technique? Is that why?
no, I actually use a lot of
Yeah.
pastel pencils, as Dory will attest.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
gonna say, no, she doesn't.
Yeah.
I had a
But
terrible thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we
no,
had
I
a,
was going to say one of the other students in, because I'm in Dory's pastel class in the evenings, one of the other students was looking at me and said, I didn't know that you use soft pastels. I thought you only used pencils. And I said, no, I
that was a
use a
funny.
combination.
I don't use that many pencils actually, except for at the start of a painting. It doesn't adhere. It doesn't give me what I need. You know, I'll use a hard pastel, like a new pastel, if I want something sharp. And I use the side of it a lot, you know. But I hardly ever, I have a whole bunch of pastel pencils, but I don't use them past the first stage usually. So
No, it depends on what I'm making, and I do a fair amount of detail work. So
yeah, yeah.
You know, if you used with the drywall screening, you can get a sharp edge to your I think new pastels are also a tremendous workhorse. You
Yeah,
can sharpen those, you can do all kinds of things with them and
I
they
agree.
work right. So,
I just don't have enough colors.
Yeah. Oh, there's never enough colors.
no,
No.
75. I think they have 75 colors or something like that. They
Yeah.
keep cutting them back. No, I had one of the worst things that ever happened to me as far as pastel coming off. Is I used to take my work to have it professionally photographed at the his name was the Photosmith down in Irvine. And one day I showed up and he's looking at me and his head's like down. And he said, well, I was wearing your painting for a while on my shirt because he walked by it. He said he didn't even realize that it was pastel.
Oh my God.
And he just kind of wiped it with his shirt. And it was really funny when I looked at it. I thought, okay, well, I don't really have to do much to this to change, to work on it. But it was funny. I thought, oh gosh, I
I
gotta
don't
watch.
think I would have been laughing, Dory.
I don't think I was laughing. It's funny now. I don't even remember what it was of. But yeah, it was he felt terrible. Didn't charge me. It was actually it worked out okay.
I think he owed you a dinner or something.
I didn't want to go to dinner with him.
Oh my gosh. Well, you can also see in my studio, I have all of these different contraptions and lighting, and I have ways of like setting up cameras and stuff like that, because that's one of the things I'm pursuing is doing a little more long format videos that I can post on YouTube and just kind of like what we just did, except I will already have the audio done and just a way to kind of share because I think pastel's great. I want people to know all about it. So yeah.
Well,
So yeah, so we're having fun with that. It's kind of a new endeavor. I kind of always like trying something new.
I think the generosity there too on the part of so many artists that have great things on YouTube. I mean, it's fantastic.
That's
Yeah.
how I learned. I swear
Yeah.
that's mostly how I learned. It is really digging into these amazing people who shared all of their knowledge. And
Yeah.
there's a lot out there.
Yeah, they're very generous people.
Yeah.
So yeah, so make those videos for us.
I'm working on it.
Okay, does anybody else have questions?
Thank you so much, Patty.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
Fun
thanks.
afternoon.
Thanks for joining in, everybody.
Thank you.
Fun.
Beautiful painting.
Really beautiful.
Have a great night.
Where do you post your work? Do you post on Instagram or
Yeah, hopefully you guys follow me on @Prescott Studio on Instagram and
do.
now @Prescott Studio on YouTube. So a lot of these videos I'm just putting them there as I finish them, even for the Instagram videos. So, but yeah, Prescott Studio is what I go by because Prescott's my maiden name and I kind of just stuck with it when I did my graphic design studio. So that's why it gets so confusing and my name's so long when I get announced, is because I kept my middle name. So, but yeah, you'll see a lot of stuff there. I don't post a ton. I try to post, you know, once a week maybe. But yeah, just playing that whole social media game. It's crazy.
It is. Susan's holding something up.
I'm
Your
consuming.
story from today.
It's a picture of my logo is a picture of me painting when I was like 6 years old, and it's literally a picture that my mom had hired a photographer to take a picture of my sister and I, and it was raining outside, so he took pictures of us inside, and I was coloring. So it's just a professional photographer took a picture of me painting when I was like 6. So how could I not use that? So yeah, that's me. If you find that one, that's me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, you guys.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Way to go.
Thanks, Susan. Where'd my thing go? How do I get out?
Dora, you want to stop the recording?
Thank you. Okay, where is it? There we go. Stop recording.
Thank you.
Bye.